Welcome to the Red Tunic Podcast. My name is Link. I'm here talking with Michael from Boneloaf Development Studios, developers of Gang Beasts. Hi, Michael. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. Yourself?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking. So, why don't you tell us a bit about Boneloaf and what you guys do for those that don't know before we get started?
Well, I guess we're a small studio. We set up quite a while ago now, actually, and been making the game Gang Beasts, like you said. It was actually founded by me and my two brothers. More recently, my wife and our sister joined as well. So it's really kind of a family company. Yeah, and we kind of fell backwards into this industry. We've been learning on the job ever since.
Well, that's always nice to have a family affair, bring everyone into it. Um, and yeah, that is something I actually wanted to ask about. You said you kind of fell into it. Uh, how did you guys get into developing? Did you get into the process of this?
Well, early on, we kind of we I failed a year at university. James was lecturing, and John was working in retail, and it just we kind of. Oh, I should also say that I was studying game design, but I failed on my English. I'm dyslexic, so I'm not very good at speaking and things. And we originally was looking to do kind of art stuff like characters and just like t-shirts and things, and also try to make maybe a small mobile game and things. And we were just toying around with some prototypes and things, and we took it to a small game developer meetup, and people seemed to like it. So we thought the game's not going to get any more popularity than that. So we put a free demo out on IndieDB, and crazily, someone from that meetup tweeted Giant Bomb, I believe it was, and within I think an hour or so of us uploading, it was on a stream to I think 30 or 40,000 people.
Oh wow!
And we've been playing catch up ever since. Like, we don't really have a professional background in games or anything. Like, James was teaching physical computing and like fine art sort of stuff, and John was a fine artist as well. So he studied that at university, and yeah, we just kind of hacked away at things until it worked.
And that's really interesting how that kind of works. And like I think from following indie games and such, that kind of seems the trend almost for older indie games, at least, in that you'd make a prototype or what have you, not really knowing what's going to happen with it, and then the next thing you know, you have a decent enough following just because it scratches that one niche itch that no one really understood or realized they had or wanted. And then, like you said, next thing you know, you're playing catch up for several years, right?
Mhm.
And like that kind of speaks to it, because I remembered playing Gang Beasts before it really popped off on Steam, and I couldn't remember why or how. And I think you mentioning the Giant Bomb thing and the IndieDB, I think that kind of triggers how I originally came about it, because Gang Beasts, as you said, it's been around, it's 4 years now, 3-4 years now
I think
that
it's
you've had it
6.
released. Thank you,
Yeah.
exactly. Because I looked on Steam, I'm like, I was definitely playing this game before, way before 2017, and that tracks. So that, thank you. I didn't remember how I found it, but I think a lot of people, when they did try it, realized it was a great little party game that kind of just, like I said, scratched an itch you didn't know you had. It was just amusing fun. Now, 'cause you kind of already said you guys just kind of fell into it, but like when you were younger with you and your brothers, did you all play video games together? Was there anything from your youth that made you guys go, yeah, we want to get into video game development? Was there a game that inspired that, or was it just sort of you fell into it and things have just sort of went with it since.
I mean, I, personally myself, I've always wanted to make video games. As far as I can remember, it was either that or an architect. I don't think I've got the maths or anything for being an architect. But yeah, we kind of we always we'd often meet up for Christmas and play games like Mario Kart. Like we'd often try and have a Christmas game as well. Like I remember one Christmas around one of my brothers where we was all just playing Fahrenheit, Indigo Prophecy, I think is called in the US. But yeah, like my dad lives in Redcar, which is a seaside town, and so there was arcades along the seafront and things. So we'd go there and play them, and so it's all kind of mismatched. There's always been games in our life.
And I can definitely relate to that. Kind of in the same way with like a similar family dynamic to it that, it sounds like for you, Mario Kart you said as an example, but your family would kind of come together, at holidays or what have you, and you'd all enjoy something together that arguably has a pretty low barrier to entry, but it's something that everyone can more or less enjoy, whether they're just watching or participating, right? So like that's always great to hear that a lot of other people share that same kind of familial, sorry, like bond for games, because back then it was everyone had to be at the same place, so there was a little more of a personal I can't think of the word, but more of like a personal touch to it, right?
Yeah.
So with that, like, did you really have a favorite game when you were younger as a child that you maybe would have played more than your brothers or anything like that?
I played a lot of SimCity when I was younger. I think also a lot of when it came out, Shadow Colossus. I remember being blown away by that. That was amazing. As for older things, Bubble Bobble. Me and James would play a lot of Bubble Bobble together. I'm trying to think what else. I've got quite an eclectic mix of games I enjoy. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
hard.
yeah, and I can definitely relate to that. I think a lot of people can relate to that, because you kind of like what you like, and sometimes what you like is a big pool of things, right?
Mm.
Um, Now, like when you say SimCity, that kind of tracks, seeing as you wanted to maybe be an architect. So like I imagine some of that might have had a bit of overlap, or I might just be, totally reaching with that one. I don't know. Um, but like, do you remember what it was about those games that made you really enjoy them?
For SimCity and I guess Sims as well is the building. I've always loved building. Minecraft is another example. It's like Lego, but
Hmm.
in VR, VR, 3D. Sorry. Um, as for Shadow of Colossus, I think it was the sense of adventure, like and just being able to climb things, and just that kind of like the way I always described Shadow of Colossus as there's no um, end level boss. The bosses are the levels. Like that's the kind of thing. It's like there's something very how empty that world
Hmm.
is, yet how full it is when you get to explore it. It's just something quite I don't know the word for it. Just it sparks your imagination.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely I get what you're trying to say, and you're right. I can't say I can't speak of the word either. Um, the closest thing I'd be able to say maybe Wanderlust, but no,
Mm.
like I definitely get what you're saying, because yeah, I never really thought of Shadow of Colossus that way before. In that, um, each boss is the level, because some of them are just tiny little guys that you're climbing up and doing what you got to do, and then some of them are big, grand, uh, you know, monoliths that even have, if I remember correctly, some of them even had like save points in the middle of them. So like Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. And you're right. Like that world itself didn't really give you anything. It really was about exploring and seeing what you could find, as well as, playing the boss levels.
Yeah, and I think actually another one, Eve Online, I used to
Hmm.
play. I stopped because although I love the game, it's
Hmm.
too much like work for me. Like you have to really invest in that game. But the stories that come out of it are absolutely amazing, and like to the point where I still keep up with the news every now and then. Like I check to see what's going on, even though I don't play the game, just because I find it fascinating.
Yeah, and like I can also relate to that. I have some friends that have always kind of played Eve and went back to it, and hearing how they play it, hearing what they do has always made me kind of hesitant to get into it because you're right, it's a lot like work. At some point you're going to have multiple spreadsheets open to track everything you're doing. But, one of the best things about Eve, and I agree, is being able to sit and read all of the stuff that comes out of it because it's pretty wild what people can and will do and how that evolves and constantly builds on itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of unfortunate that a lot of games can't really achieve that kind of not approach, can't really achieve that kind of feel, just because Eve really weighs heavily on the fact that it's players doing that, right?
Yeah.
Now, to kind of take away from maybe favorite games, do you have like a game from your childhood that when you think back on it, or if you tried to go back to it, you realize, as a child you had a certain kind of like nostalgia glasses for it, or what have you, and you can't, it's not something that really holds up as well as, it did in your child's eye or your child's mind, sorry.
Yeah, I think quite a few of them on the PlayStation 1
Hmm.
kind of fall into this category when like 3D was kind of more becoming a thing. But
Hmm.
Tenchu Stealth Assassins was the one that I can think of straight out of the box because the fog, I don't recall the fog being so close. Like the view distance of it was so poor. And obviously, it's a limitation of the hardware and that. But yeah, I tried playing it again, and I was really struggling. Actually, Mario 64 as well, though less to a lesser extent. I've been playing that recently again because of the whole anniversary stuff that came out, and I've been really enjoying it. But
Hmm.
the camera is horrible. Like, I just there's been a few times where I've struggled a lot with that camera. It's much better these days, but I think that was probably one of the first 3D platformers, if I remember right.
I would say your memory's pretty good because yeah, Mario. I don't know. I don't remember if it was the very first either, but I remember it was one of the first that kind of got it right. Um, Even if it didn't age as gracefully as it could have.
Mhm.
But but no, you're right because it was one of the first, and I think because trying to think, I think Croc was one of the earlier 3D games.
Mm.
Um, which I don't know if you ever would have played. It was a weird little
Yeah, I remember
croco-
seeing it.
crocodile in shorts and a backpack or something. Um, but it would have, it was an early PlayStation or computer game that kind of came out around the same time,
Hmm.
and it suffered from the same things, but at the same time, it didn't have the same kind of polish that Mario 64 did.
Yeah,
But it's good that you're still able to enjoy the game. Because Mario 64, I feel, or I remember at least, that it kind of held up and it always felt like a decent or a good enough game. Kind of, in my opinion, set the benchmark on how and why 3D adventure games, I guess you would say, would work, and how, like, they could always just grow from there.
yeah. I mean, it's still an amazing game. Like,
Hmm.
don't get me wrong. It's just I'm definitely having times where I'm struggling with the camera a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And like, yeah, I'm just trying to think of how that. might not translate as well to going from a 64 controller to a non 64 controller, because those were their own beasts in their own right for how
Mhm.
the buttons were all mapped and just the presentation.
Yeah, at least it doesn't wear away your thumb anymore. I don't know if you ever played a lot of 64.
Oh, I definitely did. That just reminds me of Mario, the first Mario 64, where Nintendo had to take out the one mini game, the Boo mini game, and I don't know if they did it in the UK, but in North America at least, if you sent proof of purchase of Mario Party, they would send you. It was effectively a fingerless glove that had a like a little adapter that you would be able to put on the controller or on the joystick, so that way it didn't just rip all the skin off of your palm. Because I don't know if you remember or played it, but the best way to do some of those aggressively rotate the joystick was to just jam it in your palm and go to town.
Yeah, it's like playing track and field in the arcades.
Oh, that one would have been the ball, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
or
you know.
even yeah. There's so many of them kind of games, like the ones where you have to mash buttons as well. Like,
hmm
oh,
Luckily, Nintendo took that game out for the future, but no, I know what you're talking about. The Nintendo, the joystick really could do a number on you if you weren't careful.
yeah.
I'm really actually surprised they didn't do the covers for them. Like the PlayStation controllers now, the Xbox controllers, all of them have those little, you know, covers or pads or what have you. But the 64 didn't, which is kind of interesting to me at least. Uh, so do you have a current favorite game now that you play?
Uh, I play a lot of Dota. I play Noita. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a kind of like pixel physics kind of game of I think it means witch or something in I'm not sure what language it is, but basically you pick up wands and fire things, and all the pixels have kind of physics, and it's quite a fun little roguelike kind of game.
Mhm. And I am familiar with it. It is one of those games I'm looking into to getting to trying at some point.
Hmm.
But no, that one looks really really fun. It reminds me. I don't know if you ever played this old DOS game, Libero.
Oh, that was the worms kind of thing, but
Yes.
yes, I did. I played that. I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I played a lot of that when I was younger, and seeing Noida, if that's the way to pronounce it, seeing that and instantly kind of reminded me of that, and immediately
Hmm.
just from those physics alone made me go, I want to try this. Um, because yeah, it's been getting good enough reviews and people enjoy it, and you said you enjoy it, so it's obviously it's not a obviously it's a good game, right? Or it's a game worth looking into.
It's not easy, but yeah, it's good.
Well, that kind of goes with the territory of a roguelike, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, which have their own are always fun in my opinion. So like for these games that you enjoy, like is there something like is there a core concept among them that kind of makes you enjoy them? Like is there something specifically in games that you're going to look at and say, "Oh, this game's going to do this. I'm going to enjoy it." Like for example, for me if I see a game's going to be a roguelike, I'm, typically going to enjoy it enough to try it more. Do you have anything like that for how you approach playing games?
Yeah, I guess generally I like games where I can build things.
Mhm.
Like they're my go-to sort of thing. So like you say, roguelikes is another one. Like Enter the Gungeon, I
Hmm.
loved. Played loads of that. Um, what else? I mean, I enjoy Dota for the tactics and that. Whether I'd say that was my something that I go to, I think that's the only one of that kind of genre that I go to.
Mhm.
I can't think what else. I mean, I do weirdly play a lot of Gang Beasts as well, which I guess is weird because of the amount of time I work on it. It's yeah, you wouldn't expect me to, I guess, but no, I enjoy I guess the fighting of it, the physics of it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I see that every day.
And not and to speak completely positively to the physics of Gang Beasts, it for me at least when I first tried it, I don't ever think I recalled ever playing a game with that kind of physics for the characters. And I know some people describe it as jelly physics or something, but for me, I don't know if you had them in the UK, but in Canada at least, the supermarket would always sell these little stress balls, and they're basically just balloons filled with sand.
Mm.
And when I originally played Gang Beasts, and still now when I play it in any games, that kind of took that character style or character approach and ran with it. I always imagine that they are balloons, people-shaped balloons filled with sand, because that's just how they feel to me. And in my mind, that just makes it even more hilarious. But like the physics of it are fantastic because it's they're simplistic, but at the same time they're incredibly fun. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about was a lot of other games seem to have taken more or less the same kind of physics approach. Does it kind of does that instill like a kind of pride might not be the right word, but like how does that feel knowing that a lot of games have saw what you did and went, "Oh wow, this is awesome," and have kind of based their own games around that same kind of physics?
I think it's good. I mean, it's the reason why we made Gang Beasts the way we made it. Partly was because we was naive and didn't realize how hard it'd be. The other thing is just there's something about the fluidity. Like another game that is a kind of physics-based fighting game is Bomb Squad, and that is kind of like a Bomberman, but
Okay.
with like a bit more physics thrown in, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a kind of like a clay-looking thing. Like all the levels are built out of wood and clay, kind of photorealistic. It was actually where we played it was on the Ouya. I don't know
Oh,
if you
okay.
remember the Ouya.
Remember it? I never really got into it.
Yeah, and yeah, it was very fun, and I think that's kind of one of the things that kind of inspired us to start making physics, because we'd often kind of look around the alternatives of like, oh, but you can't do this, you can't do that. So we fully understand people seeing what we're doing and trying to expand upon it.
And yeah, like I said, I asked that strictly from the standpoint of that in my opinion that seems like a great honor because like I said, I don't recall ever seeing a game or trying a game at the very least that did that. And then a lot of games do it now, and it's for me it's hilarious because I really like the physics that you guys chose to go with, just because everything feels weighted, but at the same time in a real comedic kind of weighted fashion. I'm sorry, I'm struggling to put it into the right words of uh, how much I enjoy just the 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 presence that your characters have, while at the same time being completely absurd in the how the movements kind of work with the arms flailing about, or how sometimes you can throw a punch and that punch whips behind himself before throwing forward, just because of how the arm had bent into position when you rubbed up against someone.
Mm. Yeah, there's definitely something about the physics, and I think that's why I personally still enjoy both working on the game and playing the game. It still surprises us with things like the other day. I was playing with Denny, my wife, and she did I was just walking up to her from behind, and she did a backhander with her character and completely flipped me over. And it's that kind of just there's moments that just that's I don't know, just shock you, but in a good way. I can't think of what that word is.
Yeah, like no matter how you look at it, it's going to be amusing, right? Like just the because what you just described is almost out of a cartoon, right?
Yeah.
So
It's, I'm sorry.
it's
It's
never
very
going to be a bad thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
yeah.
you off there.
No, that's okay. I'm cutting you off as well. Sorry. It's very slapstick.
Thank you. That's the word.
Yeah.
So, now I've already kind of touched on this being kind of like a trend in certain games, but like, the character design and all that. But do you have a current favorite trend in gaming? Like, is there something that you're seeing a lot of games are starting to do, and you're just absolutely ecstatic to see them do it?
Well, I like that a lot of games seeming to be focusing more on physics, because there is a lot that brings to the table, not just in the terms of making things explode and things, but also emergent gameplay. Like you can stack things and get out of places and things like that. But other things, I mean, VR is definitely one that's very interesting. I think there's still things that I struggle with personally in VR, like the walking around thing. I don't get on well with that. But yeah, there's definitely that the level of emergence in that sort of thing is amazing. Like Half-Life Alyx, I played that, and yeah, there's times where I didn't realize I was in the headset to a certain extent. Like
Oh wow!
It had that level of immersion for me. That doesn't normally happen to me.
And like that's an impressive feat. Like even as you said, it doesn't really usually happen to you. So that makes it kind of even more impressive that it's that capable of putting you in a place, putting you in a feeling in such a way that you don't realize where you are. Like I've tried some VR, and for me, it I'm always aware that I'm wearing a headset. I'm not aware of where I am standing. Um, like physicality wise in the room, and I've had some unintentional accidents while doing that.
Yeah.
But like I don't think I've ever experienced a moment of not realizing that I was not that person. So that's impressive, and like hopefully companies are able to see what Valve did to do that, and continue to progress that, because I don't know about you, but I look at VR and I think that it is a 100% a a viable or valid stream to go down, not a some people are calling it a fad or what have you. I wholly hope that it is not a fad and that it becomes something that continues onward, because it's fantastic to be able to put a headset on and slip into something, be immersed, right?
Yeah, I mean, for Half-Life Alyx, I think part of it might have been the index, the headset itself, because the higher refresh rate in that. But yeah, basically, it was, if I remember right, it's me putting the controllers down. Like I was just taking the controls off to get, to finish playing, and I went to put them on the table in the game.
Oh,
It's that kind of thing.
That would that'd be a little bit of a shock when you take them off and drop them, and then hear I'm assuming the clatter.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of games that you enjoy that make you feel that way and everything, is there a game that if you're having a bad day, that that you'll sit down and you'll play, and it's going to be your comfort food for the day, like the game that no matter what, more or less, that you're going to be able to just enjoy, and it's going to help decompress?
Yeah, it's changed over time, but I think right now, currently, my go-to game for relaxing is actually DOTA, which is a bit weird because it's not always the most friendly environment. But yeah, I quite enjoy playing that to kind of just decompress. Other than that, I mean, at times it's been Minecraft, because building thing, you just kind of get lost in the world. City Skylines I played a lot of for that sort of thing.
Now, I don't mean this in a negative way or a bad way, but it amuses me. Like I can understand Minecraft, I can understand City Skylines, because those kind of games are more or less made for you to be able to just relax and, put on a audiobook or what have you and just sort of go, right? But but games like Dota, they typically require a large amount of focus and awareness and, juggling of things. I- Can you again, in totally the, best way possible, how can you put into words how those kind of games help you decompress? Because for me personally, those kind of games just add to my stress because it's, oh, someone went, from mid went left or right, or they're jungling, or you for me that's just stress. Can you touch on how that helps you?
I'm not entirely sure. I guess maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, but no, I guess it's because it's kind of distracting me from my own issues, like my own like work or whatever.
Hmm.
I can just focus on something else, and it's kind of all consuming in that regards. Like you have to focus on the game, and I guess when it's good, it is very good. Like
Hmm.
yeah, I won. But even sometimes when it's bad, like it's fun anyway because it was a close match, or even when it's like bad and the match is full of trolls and things like that. It's not always that bad because it's just amusing to me. Like I find it interesting that people get so invested.
Hmm. And I definitely, and I never thought of it the way you just put it, but no, I definitely get what you're saying. Because yeah, it's everything is, you're so involved in it because you kind of have to be. You have to be there all the time, right? That you're right. Everything else just sort of kind of falls by the wayside, and you're able to just focus down on a problem that's in front of you that you're going to be able to resolve. I don't know if that's the same for you, but that's the mindset that when you said it, that it's the light bulb went off, that it's sometimes you just, whether you win or lose, having the ability to just do something that is going to have a result, and not
Hmm.
sit and spend like 3 hours on, because as I work as a programmer as well, so I can definitely relate to potentially working at the same problem for an hour or 2 hours with little to no results, but being able to do something that you'll get resolved immediately, well, however long a Dota match takes. I never thought of it that way. So that's an interesting, like I said, I don't know if that's entirely the way you were going, but that's the light bulb for me.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it is that kind of thing. Sorry. I suffer from anxiety, and I think it's kind of like I don't know if you know part of anxiety. One of the solutions is to distract your brain, and an easy way to do that is to chew on an ice cube because it's
hmm,
something to do with the way you're wired,
hmm,
and the sudden cold sensation kind of shortcuts your brain,
hmm,
and it can help. Sometimes it doesn't always work. Help just break you out of that kind of mindset, the anxiety attack. I think it's that kind of thing with like Dota. It's something that just completely derails my brain in the sense that of the thing I'm thinking about, and I'm just thinking about this now. So yeah,
hmm.
it's the same sort of thing.
And that's really interesting. And I want to thank you, because making that light bulb go off is kind of part of the reason I'm aiming to do this podcast, is to talk to people about what it is about games that make them enjoy them and everything, and kind of counter the negativity that we kind of get ourselves into, or at least I get myself into. And
Mm.
thinking about, getting those light bulb moments for me are awesome, because it means that I can look at things from a different side, or a different angle, or what have you, uh, and then maybe even apply that to other aspects of gaming in general, or just in life. So thank you for that, because that's a really really interesting approach. And also the ice cube trick, I never heard about that, but I definitely do know some people that suffer from anxiety, or I myself, to varying degrees. So that's an interesting, well, I'm going to call it a life hacking in air quotes there, um, to definitely look into, or to recommend, because anything that helps you, I don't know if get grounded is the right word, but anything that help you pull back and be more present, and not focus on the things that are making you anxious, are always fantastic, right?
Yeah, I think grounding is the correct term for it, actually. Yeah. But yeah, it helped me when I heard about that.
Well, yeah, that's great to hear. And then, no. So now as as a developer, there's this kind of question is going to be a little two-sided, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean it's going to be, there's going to be two sides to it. But with like the current landscape for games, now more than ever, allowing better interactivity between developers and fans, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Discord, what have you. How do you feel about the game's fandom with all of that, with the easily or the easier ability to interact and consume with your fans and developers? Like how do you feel that's impacted Boneloaf and you guys in general?
It's I think it's a double-edged sword. It is great to be able to interact with the community. Like we have like a community-run Discord, and they've been amazing. And it's funny just to see them talking about things and theory crafting about what's coming and stuff like that. And yeah, we do a lot of events as well. Obviously not currently during the global pandemic, but that's always been a way for us to kind of recharge our batteries. Like just seeing people of like lots of different. I guess it's there's something about like Gang Beasts and other games as well. I guess that just seems to bring complete strangers and just them playing it together and then just watching them enjoy it. That is that kind of thing. But yeah, it's like the harder parts of it is when people are talking about the game, saying like we're not working on the game and things like that, because it's been a while for us to get an update out. And I can understand that. Our communication historically hasn't been great. But yeah, seeing that when you've been sometimes spending literally like last week, I think I worked every single day of the week, sometimes till like 3:00 in the morning. It's like, and then hearing someone say they're not working on the game, they've just abandoned it and things. It's sometimes a bit heartbreaking. But we understand that it is the vocal minority in that regards, and also often if you do actually just speak to them, they understand and they become quite friendly in that. And yeah, it's usually just people who are just annoyed and they're finding a way to vent, which I completely understand. It's just sometimes I don't think they always realize that, like, especially for indies, usually the person that is dealing with like support, working on the game, and is also working on like, well, basically you're doing everything. So like running a game company isn't just about the game itself. You also have to run a company. Like there's legal things you have to do and all that. It's so yeah. I think that answers your question. Sorry.
Oh no, yeah, no need to apologize. And yeah, no, you nailed it. You kind of, yeah, I don't want to say you nailed it. Because it wasn't kind of like a nail set up to hit with a hammer. But no, like you definitely answered the question. I get what you're saying because yeah, in a lot of ways, you're putting all those long hours in, and people might not always see the other side of things, right? Like if all you see is, as a consumer, if all you see is the game coming out, and if you put an update, in June, and then you put out an update in October, as a consumer, you might look at that and say, oh, they're not doing anything, but you might not have anything to put out in that time, or you might be working towards stuff to put out in that time. So I think ultimately what it is, remembering that, people are people, right? Like we all have our own lives, we all have our own, we have all of our own things going on, and I think, there's a degree of unintentional separation in that, if I go to work and I work on something and I don't do if I don't give an update or put anything out for, let's say, a month, it doesn't necessarily mean I've been sitting there doing nothing for a month. It just means I haven't had anything substantial to show, right? And I think a lot of people might have that disconnect where they don't realize, it's the same for you. It's the same for any developer, more so for an indie developer. Because as you said, when you're a small team, you have way more responsibilities, way more balls you have to keep in the air, right? So, like you said, when you talk to them, and it's good that when you talk to them that they realize, because I hopefully that means, if the light bulb went on for them, they went, oh, it's the same for me, except, you know, you're producing a consumable product in the public, where in some cases, their consumable product might just be, I don't mean this in a negative way, you're stocking a shelf, or, preparing a report for their boss or something. So it's good to know that they understand that, when you can make that connection, that the empathy comes out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't want to throw some shade, but I can understand the frustration from your part if people are saying, oh, they're not doing anything, because like you said, you guys started this game in some form of another 6 or so years ago now. You released 3 years ago now. And when I looked at it earlier, you guys have been consistently putting out updates, uh, you know, as you feel they've been needed, like an update, every couple of months, or, sometimes closer, sometimes further. But you guys are still supporting the game. So it seems kind of, uh, it would seem kind of silly for someone to accuse you guys of just, abandoning the game, because clearly you guys have not. So sorry, that's
Um,
I don't know where I was going with that. Just sort of like the statement of just how it seems silly to me that someone would make that accusation.
yeah, but to be fair, in their defense, there has been, like, I think it's been, when I was looking, 27 days since we last updated the beta that we've been working on, and also, like, it has been about a year since we've had a proper release. But like, one of the things I don't think people always understand is there's also external factors. Like, sometimes, like, you can get the game as close as you can, and you think it's ready, and then you test something, and there's all of a sudden something completely weird, broken. And also, like, for us at least, because we've been learning on the job, like, we literally don't. When we started, we didn't have a program. We was just literally learning to program. We've rebuilt Gang Beasts 3 times already. Each time making substantial improvements to the inner workings of the game, but there's still a lot of kind of gumph that we're fixing. These legacy issues that keep coming back to haunt us, and luckily with this beta stuff, a lot of them have been fixed, and I'm really excited for the next update. I think a lot of the people who have been struggling with the game more recently have been playing and seeing these issues. So that is driving their reasons to think we've not, think we've just taken the money and run. But yeah, I think when they see this, they'll actually see that we have been trying. Because it plays better now than I think it ever has. Personally.
And just to speak, really briefly to the plays better. I haven't had it crash on me when I've played it recently. I haven't had any of those issues. I remember years ago it would crash occasionally, and I haven't had that happen to me. So yeah, it definitely plays more stable. The gameplay, I was never really really, I don't know if into it is the right word to use. It probably isn't, but like, it wasn't a game that I was playing, like hours a day. So for me, it was something I'd pick up, play with some friends, and would have some fun, and then that'd be it. Try it again, when we got together again, or what have you. So like, from a, I'm gonna say, casual standpoint, the game has largely felt the same. Um,
Mm.
and I don't, like I said, I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just for someone like me that picks up and plays it every now and then, it's it always has had the same feel. And I
Yeah.
hope that is a I hope that's more of a compliment than anything else, because that's what I'm trying to mean it as. It's always felt, I know what I'm gonna get when I pick up Gang Beasts, and it's
Mhm.
going to be. I've never been disappointed when I go in expecting, what I'm going in to expect. I always get, and that's always a good thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Yeah. No, this is all right. I mean, also, I'd be curious to know if you was playing locally online.
I've I don't think I've ever tried it online, not recently. Um,
Because, yeah, sorry, there a lot of the issues that we've been fixing recently, Coatsing been fixing, actually, the company we work with on Gang Beasts, is to do with online issues. Like, the
hmm.
game did play significantly different online to local, and now it's playing a lot more like local.
Oh, and that's fantastic because
Yeah.
yeah, no, I never really tried it online. For me, whenever I would play it, it would usually be in person,
Yeah.
um, with someone there or with other people. So yeah, so that's totally on me. That's not something I would have experienced. So that's great that you're fixing that gap. Um, and something else you mentioned that like people can just pick it up and they'll enjoy it. I've been to a handful of penny arcade expos in the States over the years, and without fail, it seems like there's always, I don't want to call it like a crash lounge or what have you, but there's I've seen it, I would say almost every year. There's always a group with like just open controllers for people to come and go, just take a few minutes to breathe and play. And I always see them playing Gang Beast, and it's always funny to, like you said, just to watch other people play it, because you know it the game is, no matter how you look at it, it's hilarious. You watch someone fling their arm back, knock someone out, and then you watch two people trying to that are not on the same team, trying to negotiate how they're going to throw that person off the map. But you'll see like one person pulling real hard one way and the other way, and then the person wakes up, headbutts them, and then it's absolute bedlam all over again. So I think that really speaks to the game, and that it's I've never seen anyone pick it up and not immediately enjoy themselves. And that is an impressive feat, I think, because the a lot of people aren't going to be able to pick up a game and just immediately enjoy it. Where in this case, I've seen it numerous times where people just pick it up and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that we enjoy about events. It's when like families go to an event, and
Hmm.
usually the parents are kind of bored. They're just taking their kid around, and then we invite the parents to play as well, and then they're just all playing and they're all just enjoying it. Like, that's the kind of thing that I just love seeing. Uh, it seems to bring people together.
Yeah, and like that must be a great feeling to be able to
Mm.
see a game that you made, seeing a bunch of people being able to enjoy it. In my mind, that would kind of hit on a few different things. Like you said, you made, or you see people enjoy it, but you made it, right? So in my mind, you get to see people enjoying something you made in person. But at the same time, you know that this might actually be a memory that that family, or the kids at least, create, that they remember for years. It might be something that they go back to um, in the future, and oh yeah, had a rough day, and like they sit down and they play this game, or they pick up the game, and they get their parents to go back to it after they bought it or what have you, just because those memories formed, and it's something that everyone can just sit down and enjoy together. Kind of like a board game or what have you.
I mean, if Gang Beast can ever be like Mario Kart is for us, like for Christmas, like a Christmas
Hmm.
game, I think that would be amazing. We have heard some people saying stuff on a similar sort of vein, like because we've received letters from fans and things,
Hmm.
and that's always been great. But yeah, it's weird as well for us because like we didn't really make the game for other people; we made it for ourselves to play.
Hmm.
It's just, yeah, we got lucky that other people liked it. So yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah, and like you definitely should feel good to see that because it's like I have nothing but praise to speak to Gang Beasts because like I said, when I pick it up, I know what I'm going to get. I always know it's going to be a fun time, and I think that's probably something that's shared amongst many fans. Because like I know that when this pandemic is over and the next time PAX is open, I'm confident that I'm gonna go and I'm gonna see people enjoying Gang Beast again because like I said, I've seen it numerous times over the years. So I have no doubt in my mind that there's going to be at the very least a good chunk of people that have that this is their Mario Kart. It's that this is their thing, and I think that's just awesome because it's a game that's made for that, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're definitely welcome.
Hopefully, at the next PAX you'll see the 30-man version, because we built a kind of custom version for events, which is just like they're all in the ring, 30 players at once. We don't support that publicly because it's hard enough supporting more than 4 controllers on a game on desktop. And actually, the USB setup for that is a nightmare.
Yes, that would be.
Like we have to have these dedicated USB hubs, and then we have to downgrade the USB port to support that many. It's like USB 3 doesn't support that many inputs, basically. From controllers, anyway, as far as we've seen.
So with you saying that, I'm sorry, I have to downgrade my previous statement of it being absolute bedlam because what you just said to me that redefines what bedlam would be in this game.
Oh yeah, it's completely unplayable.
Probably in the best way possible.
Yeah, it's fun to watch, but yeah, it's not really. There's reasons why we only put on certain levels.
Yes,
it's just like having 30 people on the gondola stage is not going to work. I'm not even sure they could support it.
It might, I don't know how much weight your characters have, but those gondolas, they might not enjoy having a bunch of people dangling off the side.
Yeah, they're not going to stay there for long anyway.
Oh. Sorry, I'm just in my mind. It's running through how that would all look now. So, Michael, I've kind of asked all the questions that I wanted to ask. So, this is a real smooth transition, I know. Is there anything that you want anyone that listens to this to be aware of? What they should look out for in Gang Beasts, or games you want to recommend, like anything like that, that you wanna kind of pitch. Like this is 100% just giving you a soapbox, and I'm inviting you to step on it, I guess.
I think there's only really 2 things I can think of. One being it is people on the other end when you are talking to them. Like they usually are trying. They're usually working quite hard. So just be mindful of that. I guess secondly, we are still working on the game. We're actually investing heavily into the game, and hopefully that will be seen soon.
Yeah, and I definitely will be keeping my eye out for it because it's like I said, I've always enjoyed the game, and with more updates, especially with you saying you're trying to get the online to be closer to the local play. I've never actually thought to try this game online, so that knowing that it's going to get even better, to me that makes it a great thing to do because I'd love to play this game more with people, and if online's getting better, why not, right? But yeah, so how can people follow you guys if they wanna find out more about Gang Beasts, or more about what you guys are doing in the future? Like, how can people get that information?
I guess right now it's either probably the Twitter. It's probably a good place to go, which is at Gangbeasts or at Boneloaf. Other than that, I mean, we have a Facebook page. Sorry, I'm not the best person to ask about this.
No,
Luckily,
that's
I'm also not the person in charge of this stuff.
no, that's perfectly fine. I apologize. I just sort of threw that one at you.
Oh, actually, sorry. Steam as well. The updates on Steam are probably a good place to go because
Okay.
any update that we make will eventually find its way onto consoles as well. Because one of the things people are saying is this stuff coming to consoles, and
Mhm.
yep, the answer is yes.
Okay, awesome. So what I'll try and do is I'll put as much of that in the comment description for the episode as I can, or
Thank
what
you.
have you. Find a way to help get that information out there. Um, but yeah, if there's nothing else you want to say, I'll let you get back to your busy day because as you said, you've been working last week. You put all that time in, and it's Friday now, so I'm gonna try and let you get on with your day. Thank you so much for
Thank
indulging me and sitting down and having this conversation. Like I said, it means a lot.
It's been fun.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you for that.
Mm.
So thanks for listening to the first episode of the Red Tunic Podcast. If you want to hear anything more in the future, please, take a look and see what else comes on the horizon. Also wanted to give thanks to Ronald Jenkins for allowing use of music from the track Roads Deep from the album Roads Deep. So if you do like that kind of stuff, definitely check him out. He's a lot of fun. Tune in next time.